more ways on how we can challenge ourselves as female reporters in our newsroom. Of course, I do recognize that there are some people who are not females here, but we're all having the same conversation. To get started in the program, I'd like to invite Ms. Funke Fayemi. I reckon she's here as well. She is the co-chair of the Report Women Network and 2017 FRLP Fellow, to briefly tell us more about the Report Women Network. Funke, can we have you now?
Yes, thank you, Amaka. I welcome all of you to this program. As we all know, this is 2021 and this month is about women. And our choose to challenge is the theme all around the world. In line with this, that is why we picked of the Report Women Initiative, Female Reporters Leadership Fellowship, created by Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism in 2014. The initiative is in Nigeria. The Report Women Network is the alumni group of the Report Women Female Reporters Leadership Program Fellowship. The group contributes to sustaining the capacity building of fellows and engage with other stakeholders towards improving the status of female reporters in newsroom, and also to have gender-based stories. It has a membership of 53. Two of our members from Ghana. Membership to the network is subject to selection and fulfillment of training and project delivery requirements under the Report Women Female Reporters Leadership Fellowship Program. This is aimed at equipping reporters, female reporters, with skills, finesse, support, and tools to take bold steps that help position them for the highest leadership positions in their media houses. This virtual training is part of our mandate in carrying forward the objective of Report Women Initiative. We look forward to many of same as we continue to challenge gender biases, societal stereotypes, inequality, and all that undermines the full potential of life for women and girls. I thank you all for joining us and hope this training will be beneficial. Thank you so much for making it, all of you.
Absolutely spot on, Funke. Thank you for that very brief and concise introduction. And yes, as you said, a part of this group's mandate is to give skills and empower women. And most of us journalists would attest to that. So thank you so very much, Funke. And now to do justice to today's topic is a distinguished line already there. Thank you for making time to be here. And to have an engaging and rich discussion, we have speakers from the broadcast, from print and online media. Please join me to welcome Sharon Ijason. And I'll give a brief introduction of who Sharon Ijason is. Sharon Ijason is a multiple award-winning journalist, as you all do know. She is the education and labor correspondent at TVC News Lagos. She has an in-depth understanding of labor world and the standards of International Labor Organization. Sharon was the winner and runner-up in the television category of the Wole Soyinka Award in 2018 and 2019, respectively. She is a 2018 Fellow of the Female Reporters Leadership Program and has several awards to her recognition. We're happy to have Sharon. And also with us will be Theodora Ido. If you just allow me to introduce all of our speakers, and then before we hand over Sharon. Now, Theodora is an author of Face to Face Africa Ghana. Theodora is also a journalist. She's a mentor, an advocate, and 2018 fellow of the Report Women program. She is also a graduate of the Nigeria Institute of Journalism and Ghana Institute of Journalism. She is a member of the International Standard Journalists Association and Alliance for Women in Media Africa. Theodora has participated in several trainings and fellowships. Now, and last but of course not the least is Justina Ashana. Justina is a data and investigative journalist, and currently she works at the Niger State correspondent for the nation's newspaper. She is a Onia Dubawa Fellow, the 2019 champion in United States, and was the International Center for Journalists 2018 and 2020 50 Fellow. Justina is an alumnus of the School of Media and Communication, Pan-Atlantic University. She's also a fellow of the African Science Literacy Network and a 2019 fellow of the FRLP Fellowship. In fact, we're in the same set. So thank you, ladies, for joining us. And before we move into the discussion, I would like to please just highlight some housekeeping rules, which you do know, but for the sake of this, to make it seamless for all of us, we would like to keep these rules for our participants so that we can get the best of our conversation. Please note that the program is being recorded for documentation purposes by the WSCIJ, and the hashtag for the program across the BSCIJ's social media platform is Report Women and Choose to Challenge. Please, I'll take that again so that we can tweet all of us who are here and of course put it out on our social media. So the hashtag is Report Women and Choose to Challenge, which you do know is the general theme for the Women's Day 2021. And kindly use the hashtag to join and continue discussion on our social media, as I've mentioned. And then comments and questions are welcome. That's why we are here, to engage. So please bring them. Use the chat section on your screen to drop your questions and comments, and I'll be taking them. I can see that some are already there. And if anybody cannot hear me, please indicate as well. Now, if you have a question specifically for any of the speakers, we advise you indicate this by typing their name along with the question. So if you have a question for Sharon, please, you say this is directed to Sharon, and that will help us. I do believe that we can all hear ourselves, and now we will move now to the discussion for the day. And let me just say that each speaker will have the first 10 minutes to share their topics. Afterwards, I'll ask each speaker a specific question based on their presentations before we move to the questions from the participants. Making impact with your lens. Sharon, please, the floor is yours now. Can Sharon please take the floor? Sorry, Sharon, we need to get you unmuted. Excellent.
Yes, the little challenge I have is that the network was actually breaking, actually. So it's good to be here. Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Absolutely clear.
Okay. So, okay, thank you very much. So we're talking about Choose to Challenge this morning, and we're looking at the making impacts with lens, focusing for young female journalists. Now, as a broadcast journalist, we understand the fact that pictures tell 1,000 stories. And for me as a broadcast journalist, I've had experience with the print medium. So I'm happy doing TV at the moment because it gives you the power to write and also to script to pictures. Oftentimes, when you write a story, at times there's this doubt by readers, like, could it be a fictitious story? But for broadcast, pictures don't lie. They tell 1,000 words, and you can tell the story in seconds, in few minutes, and you pass across your information. So when we say making impact with your lens as a female journalist, would also want to know that when you're talking about any issue, for you to be able to make impact, it has to be a topic that affects people, because impactful stories can be told when stories that affect you and me is being narrated to the public or is being set out there as public discourse. So it means when people watch your story, a call could come in from government officials, relevant stakeholders, asking more questions to see where they can come in, or they may not put a call through, and they do the needful. And that is what probably would make any reporter feel fulfilled. Now, when we're talking about social justice, it's a report women network. So we also have to look at issues that affect women. As a woman, we always like to, or as a woman, we like to challenge ourselves in terms of telling impactful stories. I, for example, I love to tell stories that have to do with women and children, most especially, because these are a set of people that we don't get to hear their stories every day. So I'm concerned about such stories. Now, how do you make impact by telling the stories? It means taking one part to ensure that people listen. The issue of rape, for example, the issue of gender-based violence. What is that story that you want to tell in a concise way so that people would listen, people will speak up, people will be encouraged to come out to say that this is what they are faced with and what can relevant stakeholders do. Now, there's this prerequisite that comes to you as a journalist. When telling sensitive stories, you have to be concerned about your subject in quotes so that they won't be further victimized. So if you're an aspiring journalist or you're a professional journalist, the obligation is on us to ensure that we don't further victimize people that willingly tell us that they want to share information with us. So it means that you ask questions. Do you want your face to be shown? And if the person says no, it means no. So it means, are you blurring the person's face? Are you manipulating the voice? Is the person going to turn back the camera so that you can still hear the voice and the essence of the story is not lost? At times, as a reporter, at times, person can even say yes, and I feel no. There might be something that this woman might regret later, or this lady will regret later. I'll just tell the cameraman, please focus on me while we're listening to the person that is speaking. You could see a little bit of the hands and legs, so it is believable. You don't think that one is trying to make out or make up a story that does not exist. And for children, most especially, at times I see so many stories out there and I feel really bad, whereby you're telling a story that is against the child and you're showing the child's face. Professionally, it is very wrong. There was this story recently of a child in the eastern part of the country that went to school with a gun and probably had the intention of shooting at a teacher. I would take that as a case study. And the girl's picture was everywhere on social media, and even some traditional media outfits actually deemed it fit to publish such. The child is a minor; she's not up to 18. Professionally, that child is supposed to be protected, because if you go further as a reporter, especially if you have interest in telling such social justice story, you would realize that if you go further, there's a challenge that child is faced with: lack of parental care. What is the institution as a government or as we citizens? What is the institution actually protect or offer solutions to such children that might be faced with such challenges? So as a woman, as a female reporter, you're not supposed to just, be quick to just flash a child or a woman's picture, especially if the person is a child. You're supposed to ask more questions. You could blur the picture, and until maybe the case is in court, you cannot, of course, castigate or judge on a matter that you know nothing about. Many people are always of the view of wanting to go viral. That child will be faced with this consequence of of our actions in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years. As female reporters or as journalists generally, I think we should be responsible enough to ensure that we protect children and we protect women as well. So moving forward, so that I don't take much of the time. Media ethics. Media ethics is one important aspect of journalism that we have to be concerned with. That is, in print is libellous, not being scandalous. And many oftentimes they will ask you when you were in school, what is news? They'll tell you news is what the editor calls news. At times they will tell you it is proximity. They tell you it's prominence. They tell you it's oddity. The question now is, as a female reporter or as a journalist, what do you call news? How do you present your story on the table, on the editorial table, and make your editor or make the newsroom see reasons why the story has to be told in a way that will make impact? I don't know if there's any example I can give. Okay, for example, there's a story I did that one on basic education. There was this school at Ikorodu, Lagos, whereby children were sitting under the tree. And when I did that report, of course, there was a lot of feedback. Well, apart from that, what you look at for in such a scenario is, how do you make impact? You follow the money at times. At times, you look at how many communities are affected. In that particular community, the school plays host to about maybe 4, 5, 6 communities. So it means they don't have access to proper education. It means many children in that environment did not have access to study or are not encouraged to go to school. Now you look at it as, okay, after the story was aired, in less than 48 hours, the government came over to demolish that school. In less than 6 months, a new building was erected. It means that about maybe 1,000 students now have a befitting classroom. They now have more teachers to teach them. It also means that many students that were discouraged from going to school are further encouraged to come over to school because they have a conducive environment to learn. There's so many other stories like that. You can look at the issue of private child sex trade, child prostitution, looking at the issue of rape. Rape is really a big case in Nigeria right now. How do you tell impactful story? I know a colleague did a story of how the security operatives in Nigeria aid and abet such situation whereby a female will go and report and nobody is following up. But as reporters, we have to continue to speak up. We have to continue to ensure that we keep that conversation going. And of course, because it's in women, and we ensure that that any story we do, we have a balance for any subject we're discussing, whether it affects women or not. Ensure that there is a woman in that sector that you try and ask for. Hear the person's voice. There will be something unique. There will be something different that the person will bring to the table. That of course will make your story more believable, more acceptable. Because of course, anything that affects women affects everybody in the society, and of course, it will encourage nation building.
Right. Thank you so very much, Sharon Ikason, for working within the time. In fact, and we're grateful for that. I have some questions for you, Sharon. Thank you for putting it in perspective, especially talking about some very sensitive matter and how we should approach it, whether as female journalists or as, journalists generally. There is need to always think about the person whose story you're telling, because it's always a privilege, as I say, for us to tell the story of others. Now, Sharon, very quickly, what are the tips that you would give to, other reporters who are listening to you to be able to tell an impactful story such that it is compelling? Everybody would want to, of course, watch, to read, or to listen to it, Sharon.
Well, it's about doing your research properly. It's about listening to people. The story is not about you, it's about the people, it's about them. What do the people want? For example, there was a time that food items were not coming to Lagos. Or, for example, the issue of insecurity in Nigeria. Let me use a more national issue. Fine, there's insecurity. In Benue State, for example, we know it's the food basket of the nation. You could tell an insecurity story. You could talk about elders clash and the likes. But what does Benue State? So it means that you have to take it from that angle. And for me as an individual, I think the treatment of a story determines how far that story will go generally. And of course, you have to create that balance. Whenever topic is being discussed, don't let it be a one-sided story. It can be difficult and it's easy to say, oh, all efforts to reach so and so person prove abortive. But you have to go beyond that. You have to ensure that you get that other side. It makes it believable and there might be something new. So it means your audience will be the one to now make that choice and determine what he or she wants to believe. And in such a scenario, of course, that is where impact will come in because there's a robust discussion. You know, like as if you're taking one side, yeah, hearing from both sides. So I think balance is important. I believe research is important. I believe treatment of story is important. Following the money is important. We are in the 21st century, a lot of money flying here and there, lots of budget allocation. What questions are we asking? Are we following up with the Freedom of Information Bill? Are we standing up to ask questions? So I think these are the little things that one can do to tell an impactful story.
All right, Sharon, just before I let you go, before your session ends, you have really put it very well, absolutely spot on, captured well. But again, Sharon, I mean, we all know you're a very seasoned journalist. You are an multiple award-winning journalist. That comes with hard work. Yeah,
No flatter me. No flatter me. I'm still working hard. We all strive for excellence. We should strive for excellence.
A lot of hard work, to be able to achieve that. Sharon, tell us how you're able to balance career and the realities of life every day. How do you put these two, in check and in balance?
I don't understand what you mean by the realities of life. Well, I don't know, you're breaking, but for me, the reality of life for me will be okay. I'm a married woman, so how do I balance work and maybe family? Well, I would say it's difficult. It's very easy because many people have this belief about women who work, or their career women, they don't take care of family or they don't have family life. I tell you, an average career woman works twice as hard as she does at the workplace. But everything is about having a supportive husband or a supportive man around you. For me as an individual, because for a woman, before you make that choice of who you want to maybe move on with life, you have to understand that maybe your core values is in line with what the person also stands for. In as much as women support women, in as much as we're supposed to be discussing our issues, we also have to realize that we also need the men. They have to continue to support us. They have to actually encourage us. When they feel we are drifting, they can also put us in check or in line. So for me, how do I balance it? I feel it's about having supportive people around me, my husband, my sisters, and also mentors. Mentors are very key in the journalism field or in any field that you want to further in life. Mentors are very important. At times, there's always that low time. At times, there are times you want to just give up and probably move on. For example, journalism, if you've never heard before, it's a thankless job. So mentors are very important.
Get questions from other participants. We'll give you more time. I'm sure that you should expect some more questions from them. It looks like, just quickly trying to be sure that we are on course. So thank you so very much, Sharon, for that. Like I said, there will be more time for you to respond to other questions, which I believe will come from the participants. So in the interest of time, we'll move to hear from Theodora. I believe Theodora is here. Theodora will be speaking on excelling in different media genre as a female journalist. Theodora?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. So the floor is yours. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much, Amaka. And Sharon, you did a very beautiful job. I've learned a lot from you in these few minutes that you have spoken. Thank you so much. This morning, like Amaka rightly said, I will be discussing with you some tips that can help you to excel as a young female journalist. Please, I hope that everyone can hear me clearly. Does the sound okay?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, brilliant. So I'm just going to share a few things, first of all, before I delve into it. And in my few minutes, I will be discussing some fast truths, and I will be looking at definition of some key terms. We'll be looking at who a young female journalist is. And then lastly, at the end, you should get some tips to help you excel in your chosen profession. Whether you're a broadcast journalist, an online journalist, or you're a multimedia journalist. Now, fast.
Just hold your thought a second. Let me quickly remind our participants to please drop your questions on the chat box so that we can take it as soon as the speakers are done. And again, to the hashtag that we are using, we have a third hashtag, which is get, set, go. So please add all of those hashtags to the conversation. Thank you very much. I apologize, Theodora. Please continue.
Thank you too. So I just want to share some truths with every one of us listening this morning. There are a lot of young female journalists across the globe doing amazing things. That is the truth. It's a fact. You should know that. Also, you can excel wherever you are, regardless of your geographical location. You can excel wherever in the world you are, you can excel. And you are a limited edition. So you are not limited by your gender. The fact that we are women, a lot of things going around, people saying women, blah, blah. No, you are a limited edition. Also, you can achieve anything you set your heart to. Whether you want to be a multimedia journalist, an award-winning journalist like Sharon, or like our mentors, you can be whoever you want to, and you are enough. One big truth I want every woman listening to me this morning to know is that you are enough. Now, let's go into the key terms for this conversation. You'll be wondering, what does it mean to excel? What does it mean to excel? It simply means to shine in whatever you do. Whatever you do, to shine in whatever you do. To do something very well or be highly skilled. If I see a print journalist, that person should be distinguishable. If I see a broadcast journalist like Sharon, she should be distinguishable in a field. That's what it means to excel. And because I am focusing mainly on multimedia journalism, as we all know, multimedia journalism is the contemporary journalism. Right now, it is difficult to just be a print journalist or to just be a broadcast journalist. You have to be able to combine everything together. I used to be a broadcast journalist for so many years, but right now I'm working with an online media. So if I stick to just being a broadcast journalist, then it will be difficult for me to survive right now. So you need to be highly organized to be a multimedia journalist. You also need to think creatively, because being a multimedia journalist involves broadcast online. So you have to be able to think creatively. You should, of course, be able to use a computer. Journalists, we are not in the olden days and the time of the camera obscura and those times of typewriter. So you should be able to use a computer and use it very well. You should be able to use a content management system. You know, WordPress, there are a lot of content management systems. Whatever your organization is using, you should know about it and you should be able to use it. You should be good with photo and video, because these days they are one-man production. So you are the cameraman, you are the editor, you are the broadcaster, you are also the writer. You should be able to do that. And of course, these are some of the things we learned during the fellowship, at the Reward Fellowship. You should be able to use your social media very well to your own good. In fact, social media is the best way to sell yourself as a multimedia journalist. And lastly, you should be able to edit your own news, your own content. By editing, I mean both audio and video. You can't always have people around. These days, in my previous organization, you would not be employed if you can only do one thing. So you can write, you can edit, you can stand as a camera person. So right now, a lot of people want people who do a lot of things. So now, as young female journalists, I want to ask a question just to know that we are following. Can somebody tell me who a young female journalist is?
All right, the floor is open. Can somebody quickly respond to Theodora's question? Anyone? Well, Theodora, we're all female journalists here, and we're all young journalists here. So I reckon you're speaking to us and speaking to everyone else who's involved in this, right?
Right. So Sharon already explained in details what it means to be a journalist, things you ought to do, the treatment of your story and all. The reason why I asked that question is because when we hear young female journalists, we think they are people who are younger in age. If you're new into the profession, you're still a young female journalist. And there are people who have years and years and centuries female journalists. So do not think the idea of asking that question is to let you know that you shouldn't think of yourself as you shouldn't think of a young female journalist as a child or someone who is just a school leaver or a fresh graduate. No, most of us are young female journalists, because I doubt if there's anyone here, I'm not sure, who has been in the journalism profession for over 50 years. So it means that we are all young female journalists gathering here this afternoon. And this just leads me to the exact point for today. I want to give us some tips to help us excel as young female journalists. Now, I spoke to a number of journalists who are friends, who are my seniors, and I read about some people, and I accumulated some of these tips, and I want to share them with us. The first is that you should believe in God. I believe that there's a superior being. I believe that we didn't just drop on the face of the planet. So whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, whatever you believe in, a deity, believe in God. And after that, believe in yourself. No one can believe in you as much as you believe in yourself. Multimedia journalists, there is a need to read and write always. You cannot survive if you write once in a while or once in a blue moon. I quickly tell us this. When I was working as a broadcast journalist, scripting for TV, I was a news editor, was a lot easier because the audio visuals do much of the explaining plus the voiceover. So we don't write too much. At first, when I started working with an online media, I found it difficult at first. I thought I wasn't going to survive. But anytime I go home, I read every day. I was required to, at the beginning, to write 3 stories every day. And these were not areas that I was familiar with. I decided to pen down something every day, read about people. So write always, read always. If you're a broadcast journalist, talk about things that you're really passionate about. When you do this consistently, they say that practice makes perfect. The more you do something, the better you become at it. Also, have integrity. Like we know, one core value of our profession is honesty, telling the truth. As young female journalists, we should have integrity. Let's not.
Rest of time, we just got a minute left. Please wrap up your thoughts. Thank you.
All right, so let's not trade our integrity. You should be bold and create a niche for yourself. Be useful wherever you are and garner experiences. Get an education, develop your skills. A lot of online training right now. Develop your skills beyond journalism. If you need more money, develop your skills beyond journalism. You work hard and smart and plan your future. We are all female. You get married, you have kids. Don't wait until everything falls on you and then you are confused. No, plan your future. And like we always hear, attitude is everything. Check your attitude. And in conclusion, I just want to say that there's no reason for anyone not to excel. You can only be the reason why you cannot excel. Thank you very much.
That's a very nice place to drop the anchor there, Theodora. Thank you so very much. I mean, essentially, I hear you, and I believe all the female journalists who are watching also heard the same thing. Many times you said, we are a limited version. And then you also talked about how we need to be multitasking. If you need more money, I think I like that line, Theodora, when you say, if you need more money, then you have to get more skills, which is what you're saying there and how you have touched around this and put it in context forever. The career, the field is also changing, and so we have to change with time to remain relevant and to remain the seasoned journalists that this platform is encouraging each one of us female journalists to be. Thank you very much, Theodora. I just want to ask you, what are the skills needed to excel in different genres of journalism? I believe you mentioned, but in the interest of time, you didn't go deeper. So you have like a few minutes, 2 more minutes to be able to take that. And I think, let me just ask you all the questions now so that you wrap around it once. And how have you been able to successfully, Theodora, navigate different genres of journalism while making an impact? You are an editor, you write, you audio, you edit both nonlinear and audio, nonlinear editing and as well as audio. How are you able to do all of this and together and remain impactful and churning out very compelling stories, Theodora?
All right, thank you very much. I've shared a number of tips with us, but I would say that the one that stands out for me specifically is your integrity. And as well, believing in yourself. I believe that if I believe in myself, I can do anything. I can turn the world upside down. A lot of the time, I feel that the problems that most female have is our inability to trust in ourselves and in our skills and the things that we can do. You don't have to be perfect to start doing whatever you're doing. Just believe that you can do it and you will be able to do it. So of all the tips I'll share with you, the one I want you to take to heart this afternoon is that you should believe in yourself. And how have I been able to move from broadcast to online? And in Nigeria, I did print for some years before leaving Nigeria while I was in Nigeria. And in Ghana for over 5 years, I did broadcast here in our local language mixed with English. One thing that always kept me going is the fact that, like Sharon said, I had a support system. I believed in myself first and I had a support system. If you're not married, it doesn't necessarily, if you're married, it can be your husband. If you're not married, it can be your siblings, your parents, your fiancé, whoever that is around you. But I believed that I could do everything. And the truth is, when we go to school, we don't learn to be a multimedia journalist from school. At the Nigerian Institute of Journalism, I studied broadcast journalism. At the Ghana Institute of Journalism, I majored in public relations. So you see, we have to learn. That's why I said you should gather experience. Ghana experience, there are a lot of resources out there, learn. I learned video editing by watching other people edit and from YouTube. And when the chance came, let me quickly share this experience. I was at the conference and we were going to play a video by did you say something?
We need to do that in the interest of
Amaka, I think you said something, but I can't hear it. All right, so I wanted to say that because I learned video editing from online, I was at an event where they needed someone to edit a video. They had no one. I was with my laptop. I edited it, and right there, I got a cool 500 Ghana cedis and I put it in my pocket. So for you to excel as a multimedia journalist, learn everything there is to learn and believe in yourself. With that, I know that you'll go far. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Theodora. There's no better way to put it than you have done. There are some questions already for you. We'll come to that. But let's go to Justina, who is waiting patiently on the other end. Justina will be touching on challenges of female journalists beyond the glass. Justina, this is a very perfect topic for Justina because she was very, very terrain. I was Justina more better for this topic. Do we have Justina?
Yes.
Can you?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, hi everyone. I have a slide to share.
Okay, we will get to share the screen. I believe our technical guys will do that now.
Okay.
Just share your screen. Excellent. We have it. We have it.
Okay, I'll be making a presentation on challenges of female journalists aiming beyond the glass ceiling. Sharon and Theodore have said a lot, and even though they didn't speak about the challenges, they unconsciously touched it. So the International Women Media Foundation described glass ceiling as an invisible but real barrier to the advancement of women in the workplace. In the journalism world, female journalists have two glass ceiling they face. There's one they impose on themselves, and there's one the society imposes on them. So what are these glass? There's a statistic of female journalists, representation of female journalists in the media, which I analyzed, which shows that from the middle and top management level, there is low representation of women in the media, which is always a challenge. So what are these glass ceilings we are talking about? Please, the fourth slide. Fourth. So what are these challenges we are talking about? First is poor pay. We know generally the pay for journalists are not really enough, but there are some reports that female journalists want to take, and there's really no resources for that report to be carried out because their salaries cannot fund for such report. That is why you see a lot of female journalists are it's not really showing that female journalists are doing some reports. Then second is disparity between men and women in the distribution of job roles and gender role assignments. In most media organizations, it's still being seen that some roles can still be given to women. Then there's lack of female networking in communities and forums. This is a new one coming up, which I talked a lot about, and I decided that yes, it's really one of the glass ceilings. Because most often when female journalists meet other female journalists, they are free to share their challenges with each other. But these forums are lacking in our journalism space today. And this forum helps journalists to be able to get trainings and develop their skills. Then there's also sexual harassment, bullying, sexism, and threats. Sexual harassment is continuous, but is continuous in the media space. There's also bullying, the colleagues bullying the female journalists. But now it hasn't gone online because female experience 3 times or 5 times more abusive comment than their male counterpart online. Then there is balance between balancing work and family life. Sharon has said it. She explained a lot about it. There's cultural expectations. Sharon said it a lot also. The society expects a lot from us, especially the African culture, expect the woman to always be at home to take care of the forefront. And taking up a job like journalism, which is seen as a profession that is for the male, is really sometimes goes beyond their own thinking. Then there is lack of family-friendly practice in the workplace. Most workplaces are not flexible to those who are to female journalists. They have inflexible working hours, which some female journalists may need in order to have time for their family. Then there's acceptance of the glass ceiling by female journalists. A lot of female journalists have already accepted this glass ceiling that the society have imposed on them, thereby imposing the glass ceilings upon themselves. They don't push boundaries, they don't enter into opportunities, they don't apply for opportunities, enter competitions. Some other women who are really doing well, they tend to be wallflowers regarding their careers. They expect people to just notice their dedication and hard work. Like my colleague Amaka, earlier this year, we were saying something that it seems we don't celebrate ourselves much, so we need to do more about that. So I decided, I realized, yes, it's one of the glass ceilings we put ourselves. We are doing much, but nobody is hearing about it. So we need to also blow our own trumpets. Then there is lack of mentoring. Sharon said something about mentoring, that mentoring is key in all professions, and it is. But a lot of female journalists, especially young female journalists, are unwilling to open themselves up for mentoring. They don't want to be held accountable to anybody. They don't want to open themselves up to mentoring. Why some other women who have already broken the glass ceilings are not ready to help women to help mentor them. So it's a major challenge in career development. So how do we aim beyond this glass ceiling? First,
Justina, we have 3 more minutes. Justina, sorry to cut you short. You have 3 more.
No problem. I understand.
To drop questions as well.
So in shattering the glass ceiling, okay, in shattering the glass ceiling, we need female network communities. Female journalists need to change their attitude to work. They also need to work harder, because there are some times that assignments are being given to some female journalists, and they say that they give excuses. So we need to be hardworking, and we need to be hardworking. We also need to support each other. Sharon said it, Theodora also said it. Build your support system. Women journalists are not willing to support each other. There's lack of support among female journalists. They tend to compete with themselves more instead of supporting themselves. So I will ask that we support ourselves more, build a network of support around you. Then there's also need for mentors. We are lacking media mentors. You see, majority of them are male. So we need female mentors to help the younger ones up in the profession. So I made some recommendation, which is, first of all, we need to build female network communities. More media organizations need to come up with media focus program that focus only on women. I'll speak more on the Report Women Leadership program. It has helped me a lot. It helped a lot of people, and it built your capacity. So if there are more of this, I'm sure it will go a long way to help female journalists overcome these challenges, because there's strength in numbers and the crowd is louder than a single voice. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so very much, Justina. I mean, I said it that no other person will do justice to this other than you, because you work in a very peculiar terrain, as you know, mentioned it. It's interesting, Justina, how you mentioned that there are two sort of glass ceilings: the one that we perceive, the one that is already there, by the way, and the one that we perceive is there and just assume and take it in without knowing. Thank you for bringing that aspect also into the limelight. You also talked about the need for us to get more mentors, female mentors. But let me ask you, Justina, how are you able to navigate really, really tough assignments as a woman, and then sometimes you don't get the support? You mentioned about funds, not being able to tell very compelling stories because you do not have funds, and these are some of the challenges. How do you navigate, all through this? We've seen it's called a rebel in her kind of work, and the truth, she speaks truth to power, and that's what we're all encouraged to do. So please tell us, Justina, share those thoughts with us.
Well, most times I use my funds, and most times I look out for grants. I get a lot of grants to carry out a lot of reports. There are sometimes an idea comes to my head and I just archive it, looking out for grants or sending pitches to some organization to sponsor my stories. And I'm always lucky that I get it all. So coping in a hostile environment to bring out report is not really easy as a female journalist, especially when you are in the north where I am. There are some places you can't go alone. You need to, that is why we also need the support of our male counterparts. You need to get some male to follow it, some communities, just to speak to some people. So you have to be able to you have to humble yourself in most cases. You have to be humble. You don't have to be seen as arrogant, so that you can get what you want to get. And most times, the funds are not available for resources, but if you have the will, there's a way. That is what I always believe in.
If you have the will, there's a way. Justina, let me also ask you, do you think that the media is playing a very crucial role in terms of supporting women who are reporting these very, very crucial and vital issues? What's your thought on that?
The media is trying, but a lot of media, they are just, I think the media that are trying are those that are the non-profit media organization, those who gives grants and give fellowships and give training. But other media organizations, they don't really care. Sometimes it's just for you to bring your reports. They don't care how you bring your reports. But even if you are passionate about something and you're asking for funds, a lot of these organizations don't even have the fund, even if they want to help you. They don't have the fund to give to you. So I will always encourage female journalists to be on the lookout for grants, opportunities, and opportunities for fellowship, because when you are on the fellowship, there's always opportunities that there'll be grants given for you to carry out a story. So always look out for opportunities that will help you a lot. That's what I do most of the time.
Right. Justina, Shishana there. Thank you so very much. I can see there are so many questions dropping in, both for Sharon, both for Theodora, and of course for you, Justina, Shishana. We will be taking those questions from the participants, and very quickly, I'm tempted to say I don't want to take Funke's question first. Funke, my apologies. But let's get questions from other participants first. We'll come to you most definitely. I have one question from Mariam. Mariam Bauer, I believe, and mention who the question is for. I'm afraid she didn't mention who the question is for, but Mariam says, how do you balance reporting women issues such that you're not seen to be a feminist because she is in the North? So I'll give this question to either of the speakers to respond. Anyone want to respond to that? Please indicate. Sharon? Yes, please go ahead, Sharon.
Well, I'm of the view that you have to engage the men also. You're doing a very beautiful job for them to align with you in that way. But if you're discussing rape issues, what is the CDA doing? What are the male groups doing to combat this issue? So it shouldn't just be about the women speaking. If they are tagging you as someone that does not carry the men along, or you're just a feminist, focus on them, ask questions, let it be about them. Let us see the men doing things that will support women. If it's a community whereby rape issues is prevalent, or we have underage children getting married, can we now have the imams? Can we have the pastors? Can we have the male groups, be it the young ones or the elderly ones? You have to start engaging them. So it now becomes a matter of what is their contribution. So when you put them more in your stories also too, of course they will realize that it's a social issue and not you being a feminist, because every man has a wife or a sister or a girl child, and what affects every woman affects everyone in the society. So it starts it shows that you've explored a lot about when it comes to the females telling their own story. So it's now time for you to now engage the men and other various stakeholders when it regards to whatever issue that you're discussing that affects the women or the girl child.
Right. Thank you, Sharon, for that. There's a question also here for Theodora. Mariam is asking, Theodora, how do you know the right skills for a multimedia journalist? Because you talked about how we need to be versatile. How do you know those skills? Mariam is asking. Theodora.
All right, Miriam, thanks for the question. First of all, you already know the skills to be a journalist. And the same skills that you know to be a journalist is the same set of skills that you need to know. we know what it takes to be a journalist. So to be a multimedia journalist, you just need to be a step ahead. You just need to stand out. So no more things. Don't just concentrate on print skills. There are skills for print, there are skills for broadcast, and there are skills to be an online media. So it's a combination of all the skills in these different aspects. So the skills that I mean, video, audio, writing, all of these things together. And amazingly, we have Wole Soyinka Center doing amazingly great. They are great content. There are a lot of journalists here. So you can always reach out to any one of us. The center will be ready to, of course, help you. So if you need further explanation, then you can reach out, because I know there are other questions and I wouldn't want to.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, on that note, I also want to say, could our participants please pay attention to some of the messages dropped in the conversation on the chat? There is someone who's offered, one of us actually, who's a very seasoned journalist as well, who's offered to be a mentor for anyone who's interested. Please look there. Her number is there on the chat. So if you are interested in getting a mentor, please, the floor is open there. The number is also on the chat as well. There are other questions that are dropping here, as well as conversation. I can see Wemimo saying, well, before I come to Wemimo's comment, someone is also asking to any of the speakers, I think, Justina, you should be in a better position to answer this because it's relating to your topic. She says, from all that you have said, does it mean that being a female journalist is not lucrative? How do you respond to that?
I would say being a female journalist is lucrative if you really explore the opportunities left on outside, because there are a lot of opportunities. But one thing is that the female journalists are not, they don't have the training, they don't have the capacity, they've not been trained on how to look out for these opportunities. So they need more training on that. I can tell you there's a whole lot of opportunities out there. Every day opportunities are coming up, but you just need to learn how to apply for these opportunities, learn where to look for these opportunities. And when you get there, seriously, female journalism can be very lucrative.
That's right. I mean, lately there's been a lot of opportunities on IJNet, International Journalism.
Yes.
Recon.
IJNet, ICFJ.
So a lot of them, of course, are on WCIJ as well. So there are tons and tons of opportunity. Like Justina said, there is to pay attention there. Someone is also asking that, oh my goodness, I forgot the question, unfortunately, that for those of us who are in state-owned media, and it's for everybody, how do we use our potentials to the fullest? So Theodora, Justina, Sharon, if Sharon is still here, how do you respond to that? For those who are in state-owned media, how do you use your potentials? There seem to be some sort of limitation or restriction if you are working with state-owned media, please.
All right. If there's one thing that I have learned from Mr. Leko Otufodunri, is that you can utilize social media a lot. I mean, working for a state, I have never worked for a state-owned media, but even private institutions, there are restrictions on things you can do, but there are no restrictions on your own personal social media handles. You can have your own blog. Nobody will restrict you on that. You can have your YouTube channel. Nobody's going to restrict you on that. So you can have your own, in fact, you can have your own multimedia company, which can be online, and nobody is going to restrict you from that. So I think that a lot of young female journalists should utilize this thing. Let me add, like you said, you can also have your own, we call it side business. Nobody is going to restrict you on that as well. I learned to sell things online during the COVID while we were all indoor, and I made some cool cash. They don't even have to know that it is you. So I suggest we explore some of these options. There are a lot of things we can do online. Let's explore that, and it has no limits. Yeah.
I like the sound of cool cash, and I believe I'm not alone in this. So thank you for bringing that bit. I can see Sharon is on standby. However, Sharon, this question is for you. Esther is saying, first of all, by the way, she says, good job. But what does it take to successfully report an investigative report, even when it seems your safety might be at stake? Sharon.
Well, safety first in all you do. Of course, listen to your instincts, listen to yourself, talk less, listen more, and there's some stories you will have to tell whereby your presence physically might not be needed. So if you're saying that the safety is at stake, you can give it a break and still go back to it. I'm working on a story right now. I felt I met a person I wanted to speak up against physically without knowing. I had nightmares. I had to take a break. It still doesn't mean I will go back to that story. It is not over. I'll still keep at it, but common sense will let you know when you have to take a break, when you have to talk less, listen more, and perhaps probably you have to pay a stranger to get you the information while you stay back and watch in case maybe your face might be known or easily identified.
All right.
Above all prayers.
Of course, above all prayers, the God factor, very, very, very important. Thank you, Sharon. There's another question from Juliana Taiwo, and it's for, any of the speakers can please respond. She says, I am interested in reporting women issues, but my bits are so demanding. I navigate this.
Okay, very quickly,
okay,
I said something. Okay. No,
Sharon, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Okay,
Sharon.
Very quickly during the discussion that I had earlier, I said that we have to engage any story we want to do, be you a female reporter or not. You actually have to look for a woman in that sector. I think I learned that during one project. It could a story on maybe height. You could be covering energy and not covering women's issue. Looking at possibility in the increase in price of fuel pump price, or possibility of increase in electricity. You're an energy correspondent. You can talk to the minister, talk to the stakeholders in that sector. But you can also go back to the streets to see how an average woman is surviving. How does she have to cope with the implication of this hike, which will mean that the prices of food, commodities would have increased, and probably the budget that husband gives her, or the money a family can provide for, or the budget the family can afford is limited. So it means that maybe if they have 3 square meals before, they will have 1 or twice in a day. So these are the kind of ways you can tell stories by involving women or the girl child. Whatever bits you cover, there's still something that affects women or children in that environment. It's just about you taking that second look and try to humanize the story.
Theodora, you want to add some more thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that a lot of us make the mistake of thinking that we have no time. So you're in office, you're in a health desk, or you're writing about something else, but you're passionate about writing about women. Create the time and do that consciously. We know our CEO, she always said, be intentional. Be intentional about what you are passionate about. Create time for it. So you're reporting business or this, and you don't have time. Create time, create a blog, write something, talk to people like Sharon said. First of all, you have to create time for what you are passionate about. When you create time for it, you realize that there are a lot of resources and people you can talk to, and there are also a lot of channels that you can share those information. So create time for what you are passionate about.
Right. Let me just again quickly remind us of the hashtag that we're using. Remember, it is Women Get Set Go, I believe. That's added to the hashtag that we're using. And please pay attention to the conversation. I can see that most of our, the fellows here are already linking with those who are asking for mentors. And also there are some direct responses on the conversation that is going. I want to thank those of us who are contributing. There's yet another question as well from Zainab Yetunde, and she is asking, how about the restriction on the laws governing journalism and the so-called press freedom and public interest that merely exist on paper? I think this is a very brilliant question. So any of the speakers can respond to that. Justina.
Okay, I think press freedom gives you the opportunity to even speak for public interest. So I don't see any restriction. Yes, there's a restriction coming up now on the social media bill and others, but I don't see any restriction regarding press freedom when you are reporting. Yeah, there are some things you need to put in place, like granting privacy and others, but press freedom while writing, yes, your paper might also want to have some guidelines on what you need to report on. But as a journalist that needs to look for public interest, I really don't think there's any restriction on that.
Thank you.
Hello?
Justina, let me just clarify again and remind us of our trying to see if there are more questions coming in. Yes, I can see one for Sharon, and it's coming. Deborah, NSC. Sharon, yeah. She says, Sharon, please, does this mean that specific stories on women should be reported unless it is, Sharon, that specific stories on women shouldn't, rather, I beg your pardon, shouldn't be reported unless it is a general issue that affects women or the female gender? Sharon, did you get my question? Do I need to take it again?
I got the question, but I'm trying to understand what the question is because I'm checking through the chat box and I can see at Sharon, for example, I have a flair for sexual harassment with female gender. Will this spike up anything?
I think I have an understanding of what she's asking. If I may try to put the question back to you. Maybe Deborah is saying, are there sensitive cases that I'm interested in, telling? However, it just might put me in danger or, stir up some conversations in some quarters. When you speak truth to power, the things that happen. That's what I think. How do you respond?
Okay, I think I'm not sure if this question came up after the because of some of the things I said during the presentation when I said you have to protect your source or your subject in quotes so that you don't further victimize the person. So if that is what you're trying to ask a follow-up question upon, you should never be afraid of telling any story as long as it's the truth, as long as it's verified, as long as you fact-check. You have to ensure that you fact-check your stories because integrity matters. If you mention a name, oh, this story was done by Justina or by Theodora, they should know that no, you can take it to the bank. So it doesn't mean that there is limitations on how to tell your story. I was speaking from the perspective of a broadcast journalist, whereby you put a face to a story that you're writing. As a broadcast journalist, you have to protect your interviewee in the case whereby the person might get further victimized. And there are some international laws that requires that you protect the person that you're interviewing. According to Child Rights Act, a child that is under 18 is supposed to show the person's face without the consent of the parents, and if the person is actually talking, the person maybe has been victimized, maybe has been raped, or has gone through a particular challenge. So that should, the summary of it all is, don't just further victimize a child or a girl child or a woman. It doesn't mean that you cannot tell a story. Don't be scared. The print medium, like I know, gives you more room to tell a raw story by painting pictures. And at times, most people use maybe a different name and they indicate, oh, while I was speaking with Software Alabi, not a real name. all those things is just to protect the person, so the person will not be further victimized or stigmatized, because we are still a developing country, and at times there are some subjects that are very sensitive. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to tell that story. But if you're telling a visual story, even social media now, even online journalism right now, it's multimedia. It means you do videos, you do text. These are the things you have to consider. You can get sued if you want to maybe apply for an award. It could be one of the things that they will score you low on. So you have to ensure that you're professional at all times. You just don't do things carelessly and think you get a good food. And you also have to consider that the person that you're discussing is a human being like you and deserves to be treated fairly.
I mean, that's very key there, Sharon, talking about remaining professional at all time. Thank you very much. There is yet another question from Mchetachi, and she says, how can a young female journalist launch herself in the field and to any media organization? Theodora, Justina, anyone wants to respond to that?
Hi. So if the line was breaking, so if I got you correctly, how she can be successful without being attached to a media organization, right?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, first of all, you can launch yourself without being attached. I mean, there are a lot of channels. We have YouTube, we have StreamYard, a lot of channels. Like I said earlier, you can reach out to the Wale Soyinka Center. I'm sure they have resources for all of these things. But one thing I also want you to bear in mind is that experience matters a lot. I want to suggest that for you to be actually successful, whether through internship, volunteering, attach yourself to a media, a traditional, learn from them before you detach. You should start with them because you learn a lot of experience. Don't just start on your own and then boom. You might succeed because anything is possible in this world. But I would say that you should attach yourself to a media. Give yourself specific time. Okay, maybe for 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, I'm working with this media, print, blah, blah, multimedia, whichever media, learn from them. Then you can detach yourself because there are a lot of channels to help you excel without any other media. We have, like I said, YouTube, StreamYard, Instagram, LinkedIn, a lot of channels online. And that is the future. But for the experience that you need to be very good at what you would do by the time you detach yourself, you should attach yourself first and learn.
Right. Justina, you wanted to say something. Please do go ahead.
No, I think she has said it all.
Are there more questions? I don't know if I've missed out any question. It seems I have not missed out any participants really actively engaging. Annika Center for Investigative Journalism. There's the email there. So there you have it. Raising your hands, you know where that is. If you do so, we'll be able to get Funke, if she's still there, because we want to give our other participation again. I'm sure we are all still here and we'll be happy to take that. Meanwhile, Benchitachi says, Theodora, thank you for that response. So you just for her, I can see that she's happy with that. So Funke, you're back. Can you give us a question again? I apologize for asking that your question come last. You already know why that happened, I believe. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Amaka. I can hear you. The question was on why a lot of our female journalists, they find it difficult to come out and test the waters. Like I have heard from a lot, I mean, the three speakers, the opportunities are there, but we find it difficult coming out to say, I want to apply for maybe a fellowship. I want to apply for someone to one organization to sponsor my program? Is it that we're not so sure of ourselves or we're afraid?
Justina, Theodora, Sharon?
Well, I think first of all is due to lack of training. Yeah, there are some cities like, as I always say, Abuja, Lagos are always like seen as the main cities for journalism, but there are other journalists in the hinterland who do not really have these opportunities. So there's need for more opportunities, more training. No, not say opportunities, more training, because the opportunities are there, but the training will give them the leverage. The training will give them the leverage to be able to access these opportunities. So my take is more trainings for journalists in the media.
Well, I support what Justina said. Training and retraining really matters a lot. It helps us upskill, upgrade, makes us more focused and determined on what particular path we want to choose. We all say we are all journalists, but everybody has probably their own specialty or their own calling. It depends on what you have more interest in. So, from my own honest observation, some people have not been, maybe should I say, lucky enough to meet people that would inspire them towards greatness. Mentorship is key. It's very important. You could be hardworking, you could have talent, you could be very creative, but you just don't know how to put it together. And it's a big problem or a big challenge, which you can surmount if you decide to upskill, upgrade, be in the right network, be amongst people that will make you excel. You can look at somebody and say, oh, I like the way Theodora is. She's excelling in this field, and this is what I want to be like. For me, there are a lot of people that I have as mentors, both home and abroad. For at times, I was in the print medium. For me to choose to be a broadcast journalist, I was watching television one day and I saw Aisha Safi talking. And I looked at her. She's saying that I can't say. Because then I was in the print media, and we all know that print media doesn't pay well, or they don't pay at all. And I just looked at it. What am I doing in the print media? They don't pay me. What's she saying? I think I say it better. And that's how I switched. I moved from that paper to Galaxy Television, and that's where I moved on to where I am today. So you actually have to know what you want. Go for it. Don't be discouraged. You could model someone that you know probably morally and professionally the person is upright. I think that's one quick way to get out of it. And of course, there are centers like the Wale Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism that have provided support to hundreds of women and men. Yeah, I know that there's PTCIJ, like, oh my God, I read that many networks like that. It can also help. In any field, it's essential you have people that can support you. If you might be confused, you could just put a call through to ask questions. That question can determine a lot.
Right, thank you, Sharon. We have more questions coming in, interestingly. So there is one here. How do I combine maximizing opportunities as a female journalist and excel academically at the same time? So, Theodora? Okay, Sharon.
All right.
Okay. You know, I'm eager to answer that question. I'm eager to answer that question because all my life I've always been schooling and working at the same time. So there is no excuse. For the journalism profession, the earlier, the better. When you're in that classroom, that lecture room, there's this inspiration you get. Many a times it's all theories, but even with the theory, because you are out there, maybe you are an intern in an organization, you can actually interpret better. When the test comes, you do it better. When the examination comes, you write it better. Don't think it's going to mar you. No, it's going to make you better because every other person in the class are all about the textbook, but you are doing the textbook and you're on the field. At maybe age 18, 19, I was already meeting with editors. And I do things that they will marvel and say, Sharon, where did you get this story from? I can tell you for free that I've trekked from, which is the longest distance, maybe from my office in the Keja to maybe Sheraton Hotel or Airport Hotel for an assignment. Nobody sent me. I use my feeding money to do that. So I'm just trying to encourage any young journalist that is listening that you're going to. Sorry?
Questions in the interest of time. I'm
No,
sorry
but
to cut you short.
Okay, it's fine.
Right, so we have a question from, of course, Mr. Did you get my question, Justina?
No, we didn't hear you at all. The line was
How
breaking.
Network.
is this? How
You're
can
breaking.
right.
Can you
How,
type
You're still breaking.
Can you type it?
okay, so can somebody just read it through from there if you can't hear me? Policies to address some of the challenges that female journalists face.
All right. So I think that just to help a bit with that question, we should start. I mean, there are a lot of journalists here who are young. There are also journalists who are female who have been in this profession for a long time. All the fellows, for instance, we were consciously taught about ensuring there are policies that suit and enable the female journalists to work well. So you have gradually worked for a while in your organization. These are things that you're a female editor, assistant editor. Don't just hold the title and be there. Make sure that you're doing something to make the next generation of female journalists who are coming up, to make their lives a lot easier for them. Draft policies. A lot of us have been taught on how to draft policies for female journalists, the things that go into policy drafting. Start in your organization. Draft one for your newsroom. If you're in the newsroom, you're the head of a health desk or whatever beat you're editing, you're the editor. So let the female journalists who are already in position to ensure that some of these policies, don't wait for someone to draft the policy for you. Draft it, push it, and then gradually, I believe that when you do so, you push it in your newsroom, it gradually becomes a big deal in your entire media organization. It explodes. You tell your friend in other media organizations about it. They also push for it. That just like we are retweeting things happening there, we should do that with policies as well. And I believe that when we do that,
I'd like to say, Theodora, I'd like to say thank you, Justina. I'd like to say thank you, Sharon, as well. Maybe just one more thoughts from you as a wrap, Justina, and then of course, Sharon, your final thoughts, very briefly, so we can let everyone go. We're doing very well. Hear you, Justina, very briefly.
As female journalists, we can work at shattering the glass ceiling. So we should work towards that. We should create forums where we can encourage ourselves and support ourselves at every given time, and stop giving excuses. Take up tasks, challenge yourself with assignments. Thank you.
Right, Sharon, thank you, Justina. And Sharon there. Okay, looks like we don't have Sharon there again. But I'd really like to say thank you to our participants, quite engaged in there, quite thought-provoking questions. Thank you to our amazing speakers, Theodora Ido. Thank you, Justina Shishana. And of course, thank you, Sharon Idason. You have all done justice to the subject matter that we discussed here. And it's quite indeed a fruitful discussion. I believe that you all agree with me. So we appreciate also our participants who, without them, we may not have had a good time. So Sharon, thank you as well. Thank you in absentia, but it's good to know that you're here. So thank you very much. We're grateful. Can you hear me now?
Hold on. Okay, what's the question again?
There's no question. I'm just thanking you. We just.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All of you. So before we leave, I just ask the speakers, could you just put on your cameras so that there will be a picture, and if you kindly do the symbol for the, IWD, We have, I have an indication, please speakers. Justina, please. Justina,
I'm
can
here.
Justina hear me?
Yes, I
Excellent.
can hear you.
Yes, it's an amazing smile. Okay, I believe that the picture is taken. Yeah. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. We're grateful. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all the participants. Thank you to all our speakers. Again, Theodora, Justina, and Sharon Jason. Thank you for all those who are working behind the scene, especially our technical crew. Thank you to the, the group, WSCIJ, for all of those who made this to happen, those that we can't see here physically, but of course are working in the background, Funke, and the rest of us. Just want to say thank you. It's been indeed a great session that we've had and gone home with more than one or two things, as we say here in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Amaka Alpha. What was your question?
Wonderful is what you are to me. It's you I see in my dreams every day, and I pray for you, queen of my life. You are so beautiful, mama. You're beautiful. Emi wa mama kan. Ta ló lè yé yé yé.